All right. Well, welcome to the District 5 Advisory Board meeting for the month of November. My name is Brian Fry, council member representing District 5. We're actually not in District 5 tonight. That is across the street. But this is the new administration building for the Wichita Waterworks facility. We always call this Northwest Water Treatment Facility while it was under construction. But now that it's almost finished, we've renamed it Wichita Water Works, which if you go to the existing plant, that is what's on the exterior of that building. But this will take the place for that facility. Soon to open late next year. It'll start pumping water, but not to the public until early 25. In the back of the room is Bill Perkins. Bill is our project manager for Public Works and Utilities. He is the one keeping the eyes and ears on this facility to make sure it's getting built to spec. He's also in charge of our BNR plant, which is our wastewater treatment plant down south. So when I talk about the billionaires in town, he's one of them because he's in charge of two projects that almost equal $1 billion. So we couldn't do this without him. He's doing an amazing job. This is the administration building for the water treatment facility. For those of you that got the quick tour, we'll do one after the meeting. Bill has agreed to stay here till the end of the meeting to do it. This facility had to be open a year in advance because it's the lab. And the lab has to be up for a full year before it gets certified and everything. So that's why this is almost finished. There's still a few little projects, but Bill can talk about that on the tour. So again, welcome. This is the advisory board. I turn the meeting over to my board and let them run it. And so tonight, Wendy Carter is Chair Pro Tem, and she's going to take it from here. But again, welcome. Thank you all for being here.
So go ahead and call the meeting to order. So can I get an approval of our agenda for this evening?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion, agenda's passed. Can I get an approval of the minutes, last month's minutes? So moved. Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, Sarah and Grace. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Our public agenda this evening looks like, do we have Crystal Mills here? One of our residents, Crystal, no Crystal in the house, okay.
Is she online, Teresa?
I think so.
Okay.
No, okay. Are there any off agenda items, any individual that would like to, from the public that would like to request or speak on anything at the moment? Okay. Can I have I guess we don't need to speak up. Okay, so moving right along then. Brian Sturm.
Okay, so real quick, thing that's been in the news a little bit lately is the winter shelter. This summer, Humankind, which operates the 24-hour or the winter shelter last year, informed us that due to projections, they were going to be over capacity and they weren't going to be able to meet the demand. And so we started looking for a temporary facility to get us through this winter, just due to the increased numbers. So in August, we started looking for a facility, checked out a lot of different places, from private buildings to public buildings to abandoned schools, all across the city. Nothing worked out. And then the facility that we had been leasing to Fundamental Learning Center on East 21st, they moved out to their new facility at 127th and Central. So that space became available. Our housing department went and checked it out and said, yeah, this would work for a temporary shelter. So working with Humankind, we identified what would be required in terms of fixing it up to get us through the winter. They committed some dollars to it. So the idea is that facility will be a 24/7 temporary winter shelter to house about 235 individuals, starting in November through March, about 22 weeks. It's about $885,000. That includes the renovation, staffing for security, administration, food service. It'll be 24 hours a day, and there will be 3 meals a day. Humankind is gonna do all the operations. The city has identified dollars. We're asking for support from our county government as well as the state. But we can cover that for 22 weeks. It is on the bus route. Transit Department will provide free transportation to anybody that needs it. Our homeless outreach team will be on the street visiting with individuals. If they need shelter, they will be asked to go to this facility. If they don't, they have options of, this is for camping, right? So if they're camping, they'll either be asked to go to this shelter or go to another provider. And if they refuse, then according to our ordinance, they can go to jail. Transit. Yes, right. Or other service providers, depending upon where they want to go. So again, this is a short term, just for this winter. We're voting on it tomorrow. There's been a lot of unrest from the neighboring community, concerns about it being a permanent facility. It is completely secure with fencing. There will be 24-hour cameras, staff there, and it'll be monitored. So nobody likes these type of facilities in their backyards. We understand that, but it is a crisis situation, and we have committed to the neighborhood that it is temporary. While we continue to look for a permanent site for our multi-agency center. This would be a campus-like environment that would have services, a non-congregate shelter for 24/7, winter shelter, and year-round shelter, as well as low-income housing. We're currently reviewing RFPs on that project. We've got money committed from the feds to support that. We don't know yet if this is a new build or a remodel. Again, we're looking at 3 proposals, but hopefully that could be online as early as next year. And again, this particular facility will just be for this year while we continue to work on the others. So again, a lot of news stories about this. There will be a very long council meeting tomorrow, I imagine, just because of some of the concerns that we're hearing. But again, it is a crisis situation. It's not something that we have ignored or put it off. We have been working since the summer to try to find this facility. So happy to answer any questions anybody may have on this or anything that you may have heard from your friends or neighbors.
Why do you think there's a crisis?
Because the numbers have increased.
Okay.
So in January, I took part in the United Way's point in time count, where they pick a day, one of the coldest days of the year. And at 4 a.m, they go out and they start trying to find anyone that's homeless. Those are the people that do not want to go seek shelter. Even though it's so cold, they're the most vulnerable. And at that time, there were 702 that we found on the streets that day. And that's too many. Well, since then, the numbers have only increased. And so Humankind, Union Rescue Mission, Salvation Army, Open Door, they've all seen increased numbers as well. So just based off that, we're predicting it'll be more than 702. This particular shelter will have the ability to house 235. And it will be single men and single women separated. If there are homeless families, Humankind has a separate facility that they'll be able to go to. So that way you won't be mixing. Because people are vulnerable and people that are homeless typically have a lot of possessions and they want to be able to have a place that they can keep them while they're in the shelter. This will have that opportunity as well.
Is this a trend nationwide?
Yes, this is not exclusive to Wichita. Especially when you get major metropolitan cities like Wichita that have services for homeless, for people that are battling mental health, substance abuse, addictions, people that need parolee services, people that are looking for job assistance training. Right, so a city like Wichita has all those services, so people tend to come to Wichita where they may not get that in Medicine Lodge or Sterling or even McPherson, right? So because we have those services and because we have a very giving community, people do come to Wichita. But it's not exclusive to us, it's across the country.
Councilman Fry, where exactly is the location again?
So if I'm not gonna get the address exactly right.
Yeah.
But it's on East 21st between the Canal Route and Grove. If you're familiar with where Boys and Girls Club is, the old Heart Spring campus.
Yes.
There were two buildings out on 21st. One on the west side is Open Door. And the one on the east side was the Fundamental Learning Center. Originally, it was a Cessna training facility. So when Fundamental Learning Center moved out, it became available. And it's like, oh, wow, we didn't think of that. So, yes, ma'am.
Now, are most of the homeless downtown? If they are, then is that a lot of folks to transport that are?
Yes.
So there's.
Again,
Yes.
there is no ideal spot for any building like this. We are seeing homeless in every neighborhood and not every neighborhood, in all parts of the city. We have got encampments in District 5, District 2. We're seeing it spread out throughout the city. So there is no perfect location. You want it to be near services like Lord's Diner, Salvation Army, etc. But it's nearly impossible to find a facility this size that is easy to adapt.
So would you just use vans to transport?
Transit buses,
Transit buses?
that'll be the primary use, right? And our HOT team, our homeless outreach team, which is operated by the Wichita Police Department, they have trucks that they can haul individuals, they can transport, sorry. They can transport individuals, one or two at a time that way. So, anyone else? Yes, sir.
I talked to a commissioner here a couple weeks ago, and they said that being homeless is not a crime.
Correct.
So with what you said, what,
Camping on public land is.
right, so my question was, is the parameter that they're camping, or is it the parameter that they're outside when it's a certain temperature, so they're detriment to themselves?
It's the camping on public or private property. That is what is illegal. So, and again, you're not gonna go to jail for just refusing or for being there, but if you don't pick up and move, then you willfully violated the ordinance. So that's why we give people the option. Here's a free shelter, there's no cost, there's food, it's dry, there's bathrooms, there's showers, you'll be able to. And then you can go back, but you just can't camp on private property or public property.
Kind of, another question too. I know that you're working on it for this year. What's the projections for the next year? And the only reason to bring that up is we all see what's going on southern border. What do you guys see going into next year, after that?
That's why we're building the MAC, the Multi-Agency Center, to try to have wraparound services. We're following some models that have been done in larger cities like San Antonio and Las Vegas, where they have these campus-like settings where there are wraparound services, where there's low-income housing. The priority is to get people into housing, right, or into treatment, so that they don't have to live on the street. But just being able to stay ahead of the numbers, it's very difficult. So trying to get something immediately this year to address this need, but it's constant. We have to keep addressing it. JB?
I might just point out that Latasha and humankind did an exhaustive study and search for places, including Waterloo Bixman came and looked at that. So this is a good example of a public-private partnership that can work. I just think it's a great opportunity to combine government and nonprofit agencies to really come up with a good solution.
And again, we don't want to continue to build giant shelters to house homeless people. We'd rather get them into housing and get affordable housing that people can move into. Because we've got vouchers, we've got federal dollars to help with rent and so forth. but we have to build up the facilities, and there needs to be more private dollars building affordable housing. So it's a combination of a lot of different entities.
Might point out too, everyone's invited to homeless task force meetings. So if you Google it and the public's invited, attendance has been really, really good. People are interested.
Are we worried at all about being too good at sheltering homeless?
I understand what you're saying there. So again, the idea is to get beyond just temporary shelters, right? The idea is to get people into housing, get them into the workforce, get them into helping the community rather than being assisted, right? And so it's got to be comprehensive. It's got to have all those services wrapped around together. And again, if we're successful with that, then I love being too good at it, right? So.
Brian, is there a mental health component to this? Because I know that's the issue
Yes.
for many homeless.
And that's been part of the shared agenda from the legislative between the city and the county over the last few years. And we were successful in getting money from the state to build a new mental health hospital with 50 beds, possibly 100 beds in this region. That hasn't been determined where that's going to be yet. They're still working on that location. Right now, the only mental health facility that can be on an emergency basis is Via Christi, St. Joe. And oftentimes they're at capacity. And there's no place for people that are in crisis from mental health or substance use to go. And so that's why this mental health hospital is so key. But getting the dollars from our state legislatures was very important. That's the next piece of this. That's all I'm gonna. Yeah, that's a big one right now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brian.
You bet.
Really good information. All right, so we'll move on to our staff reports and our favorite local West Side librarian, Tracy. Would you like to come up and tell us all the good news?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Partridge. I'm the manager of the Westlink Branch Library. The first thing that I want to let you know is that all Wichita Public Library locations will be closed on Friday, November 10th and Saturday, November 11th for Veterans Day. We will close at 5, I believe, on the 23rd. And no, I apologize, 5 on the 22nd. It will be closed Thursday, November 23rd and Friday, November 24th for Thanksgiving. The cool thing about the library is that even honestly, when we're closed, we're still offering services. We have ebooks, we have streaming, we have over 44 databases. So even when we are closed, you are not without something to read, watch, listen to. Another thing that I wanted to mention is November is Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month. That is actually a statewide initiative where we try and get as many 0 to 5-year-olds to hear the same book. Now, this year, the book is My Heart Fills with Happiness by Monique Gray Smith. And the purpose of it is to get people to think about what brings them joy and to celebrate that joy. And so that just honestly fills my heart with happiness. Now, if you want more information about that specific initiative, you can go to wichitalibrary.org/pre-K. On Thursday of last week and then on Saturday, we premiered the Library View Book Bus, which is incredibly exciting. The book bus is a small little bus that's going to go out to different parts of the city that do not have libraries. And it specifically is focused on children, and that's what the majority of the materials on the bus are for. But there are materials also for adults as well, but it's really targeted at kids wanting to make sure that they have all of the advantages that reading can bring them. Now, the wrap for the book bus was actually done by a local artist, Lindsay Kernoodle. And so when you see that bus driving around, be sure to admire that fabulous artwork. And if you want more information about that book bus, you can just go to wichitalibrary.org/bookbus. And then another thing that I wanted to mention is November is National Novel Writing Month. So if you haven't started your novel, it is time. Or if you want to continue your novel, it's time. Or if you want to finish your novel, again, it is time. And you can actually do it at a Wichita Public Library location, the Advanced Learning Library, on Saturdays from 2 to 4, with the exception of Veterans Day. We'll be sponsoring like a like just a come and work on writing your novel. Have a person right beside you who can give you that reinforcement. So that is something to be excited about. Does anybody have any questions? I have one more thing before I take any questions.
I'm just curious, when the students or kids check out those books off of the bus.
Yes.
How do they get them checked back in? Does the bus come back around and pick them up or?
That's an excellent question. They can be returned to any Wichita Public Library location, but yes, they are actually gonna have like scheduled stops, like stops that they go to repeatedly. They will also honestly go to specific events. Like the one that was on Saturday was at our Alfred Branch Library. It was just a premiere, but it was actually for Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month, but different events that happen throughout the city, the book bus will go. Okay, yes.
So do you guys have any involvement in the book boxes around town?
That is an excellent question. My children's librarian, my youth services librarian, Eva Peacock, her dad actually built one of the, a little library out front of one of the local schools, and then she actually stocked it. So in that regard, we do. The other regard that we do is, the library was a partner in a 26 little libraries in a specific district. And I can't remember, is it District 2? Do you remember?
3.
District 3, thank you. District 3, and so 26 little libraries, each one represents a different letter of the alphabet. When you open the door, it actually says that letter, and then it's got books. So in those, we have been partners in the one that Eva and her dad did, yes, but besides that, no. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I know that you love challenges, library challenges, that it makes your heart grow. And so I have brought a library challenge for you. Okay, so does anybody have any, like you can't eat nuts? Nobody can eat. That's awesome. Okay. So I have brought something called break-in bags. And they are combination filled bags that actually have treats in them. Thank you. And what you have to do is you have to answer the library related questions to actually get the combination to the break-in bag. And once you actually do that, then you get all the treats inside. Then if you bring it back at the December meeting, I will collect it and I will give you another treat. And then we will also use these bags for a program that we do with the library. But we thought, gosh, you guys love challenges and you want this one. And Teresa, I will give you one. Okay. So that was it for the library. And I want to thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak and have an absolutely fabulous evening.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
For the most
Okay,
part,
got it.
For the most part, basically what.
Oh my gosh.
Where we. So we have a fiction select or a nonfiction select.
No.
So they're actually the ones. And I'm actually in charge of our library, but our items in charge of you have to select different. Yes, and if you actually, if you go to the Wichita Library website and you go to the staff section. And something else to do with it. Okay.
Anything else from you, Tracy?
That's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
I look forward to getting all of my bags back and they're opened with the combination.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Good, good. Thank you, Tracy. All right, moving along, well, Battalion Chief Jones, would you like to give your fire department report tonight?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chief Jones from Battalion 4. This is my shift to work out here. I work out of 16, which is over on Tyler Road, North Tyler Road. And just give an update to, basically we serve tab 4 and 5. And so I'll give you an update on fires. And tab 5, we had just a couple last month. 1900 block of Keith Court, which was a person making a couple of Molotov cocktails. So that was itinerary there, and the investigators are working on that. it was not a lot of damage, it's at home, but, yeah, it was definitely someone up to mischievous actions there. And then 20 Hunter Block of Rutgers, was possibly, discarded at the coal and was a vacant house. So, those are the two major incidents in the area, which is good. I don't have a full accounting number of alarms in the district. We're in a transition with the fire department right now of our reporting system. We're moving to a whole new reporting system in January. And our old is not as supported as it was, so it's a little bit sketchy on our total volume of numbers right now. So nothing atypical in the district. There was some fire prevention things that I sent late to Teresa that she can share with you all, but Thanksgiving coming up. Fires on Thanksgiving are due to kitchen fires, as are most fires, but on Thanksgiving, that's the number one cause of fires. Keep your comments to yourself on that. That is the leading day of the year for home fires involving cooking equipment. So maybe it's because we don't use it, throughout the rest of the year. So also it's a good time to get your chimneys checked and swept. Don't ever forget to stay on top of that chimney sweeping. We typically have quite a few chimney fires at the beginning of the winter. And then I've got another handout for some heating safety as far as just floor furnaces as well as space heaters and safety with that. So CO and smoke detectors, change of time. You want to check your batteries in those if they are battery operated or battery backup. So little information, 23, which has been a temporary firehouse there at Zoo Boulevard and 13th and West Street. It'll be closing at the end of the year because Amity Bridge is open. So it was put there to help offset that issue. So that'll be closing, and then we'll disperse the people that work there now into the rest of the firehouses. We have 14 new recruits in training right now. So they're some of them have gone through the EMT class, and some of them were hired as EMTs. And so they'll be, I think they get done with their training. They're scheduled to get done with their training, be on the floor in January, early January. So that'll put us in a good position number-wise, I believe. Always have people retiring or moving on or something of that nature, but we'll be over 500, I think, firefighters at that point. So working on, I know council allocated some money, purchased some land. So moving forward to get some additional firehouses up in the Northwest area and particularly Southwest. So I know you guys follow the news as well as you do as anyone else, but we did have a couple of significant incidents not in the district that I wouldn't mind just sharing with you. We had a 2-alarm apartment fire on East Wichita in October. It was October 13th, and we ended up having 4 victims. Massive fire out there. It was what we call a 2-alarm fire, which is a whole additional extra people coming. Firefighters had to rescue some people out via the window and on ladders, and then we had a couple of people jump from the second floor windows. The entrance of this apartment complex was on fire with a large amount of fire. So firefighters had trouble getting in that way, and then obviously people had trouble getting out. So we ended up having 1 fatality and 1 non-critical injury, and then 2 other critical injuries at that incident. So another incident that was significant was a tanker rollover at 235 Meridian, somewhere up there. And the interesting part of that for you guys is we have in our arsenal now, we have what we call a foam tender. So that is a large truck that has a large amount of water on it, like 2,500 gallons of water, but also has a foam. And so we deploy that when we have like a tanker truck rollover, and then that will suppress the fire vapors so that we can do our rescue efforts for victims. And then also if we need to, in this case, we needed to control some leaks. And so that 7,500 gallon tanker that rolled over, they laid down the foam. And this apparatus is located with the hazardous materials team, which is up by WSU on 21st about Hillside. So they did their job well, and the equipment, which everyone here provides, came in handy, and they suppressed those vapors and got the truck driver to safety. And so then they were on scene for quite a while, where we had to have contractors come in and offload that fuel because the tanker was on its side. So that was another significant event. That was at Meridian and 235 ramp. So no one injured, other than the truck driver was slightly injured. And then the neighborhood was evacuated for a little while, but when they were able to control the leak, then the people were able to go back into the shelter or to their homes. So like I said, I think if, she can email you, Teresa can email you these items. And then if you guys have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer anything. Yes.
I've seen advertised a lot, this blanket.
Right. I get that on my Instagram too. I don't know why I get fire stuff on my Instagram.
I
Listen.
just didn't know, you don't really hear that presented by the fire
Right.
department. So I didn't know if it looks like it's a really.
I don't know anything about it. I think that they do work fairly well. I know like in the service, we have a similar item that we don't have here. But it will go over a window. So like in New York and Chicago, where they have a lot of high-rise fires, those fires, if they become what we call wind-driven, which can like 10, 15 miles an hour, can really make a big difference. The firefighters can go up and deploy this blanket across that window, and that cuts down the wind. Obviously, we've always preached, cover a pan up that's on fire. I would think that they would work. I don't know what they cost. I haven't looked at it. I don't click on it, but it's always on there.
Yeah,
So
I know, and that's what I was wondering, because you really just don't hear it.
you know, the private sector part of me thinks that, you don't sell something like that unless it is tested and it works, probably due to lawsuits and whatnot. But we don't have any that we've tested. I need to, I'll make a note to check with Chief O'Cades, who's in our, he works in our risk reduction area, and see if they've got any inclination to buy something like that and test it. Because that'd be a good idea for fire department to do this kind of thing, so we can provide a message.
Yeah, that'd be
Good
great.
question.
Thank you.
Questions?
Anybody else? Okay, well, enjoy your meeting. I appreciate the time. See you guys. I think I'm on schedule next month too.
All right, we'll
So-
see you in December then. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, our community police officers cannot be here tonight. They're assisting an officer-involved shooting in Mays. An officer was injured, not one of ours, but so that's why he's not here tonight. But I did fail to mention as part of my update, we've been working very hard on the location for the Patrol West substation. We made an offer to the school district for a parcel of land at Northwest High, right there at the corner of 13th and Country Acres. Last Monday night, the school board approved that. So now it has to come to the council to make the purchase. And then the next step will be designing it and getting it built. But we have the funding for it, not only the funding for the land purchase, but also for the construction using federal ARPA dollars. So we're on a tight timeline. The goal is to get it constructed and built before the end of 26. We have the blueprint for the one that's being built at the old Southeast right now, and hopefully that will be what we'll be able to continue to follow. But pleased to see that the school board accept the offer. And again, it's right out there on the corner of north of 13th and Country Acres. So, but
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Okay, Matt Martinez with Parks and Rec Department tonight.
How we doing, everybody?
Great.
Good. I'm Matt Martinez. I'm the recreation supervisor for Wichita Parks and Recreation. I'm stationed out at Evergreen Rec Center off of 27th in Arkansas. But I'm here to talk to you guys the updates with Parks and Recreation. Maintenance, regular routine work continues. They're starting to trend towards doing winter work. All of the freestanding restrooms have been winterized. Forestry, Gary Ferris, let me know if I missed anything. Regular routine work continues. They completed tree planting day with USD 259 Southeast, right? Down at Alice Wall Park. Students helped approximately plant 650 trees that day, which was last Thursday, right? Late season for Arbor Day celebration. Some park projects in construction. They're starting to remove tennis courts at Sycamore Park and Country Acres Park. And then they're installing memorial benches as well. Recreation, our next big event that we got going on is Winter Wonderland, which will be December 9th down at Napsker Park from 5 to 7. So we'll have that event going on. Down at Watson Park, they'll start in their Watson's Christmas Express, which is an awesome thing they do there. And then we'll be starting registration for fall or for winter classes on the 13th of November. And we'll be also for Veterans Day, will be closed this Friday as well. Rec centers will be closed. But we'll be doing some pushes through our Evolve guides for classes and programs. And then just gearing up for winter session. But that's all I got. Any questions for me? Good. All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Steve Dagenhart with Public Works and Utilities.
Good evening. I'm Steve Dagenhart, construction manager with Public Works Engineering. We're going to talk about some projects, very little actually going on under construction, and then we'll talk about some projects undergoing design work. So here in the last quarter, a lot of pavement preservation locations wrapped up here in District 5. Really the only work in the area that's or big work in the District 5 area is 21st Street from 119th to 135th. To convert that roadway to a 3-lane roadway. Some work started on it initially. There's been some kind of delays getting the contractor back in there to finish, but they told me as of Friday that they're scheduled to be here on Wednesday. So I'm looking to make a phone call to them tomorrow to follow up and make sure they truly intend to be here on Wednesday to finish up that work. So projects in the under design. So Westlink Library expansion, looking to open bids here later this month in a couple weeks, actually on the 7th, actually next week on the 17th, with construction to start in December and anticipating construction will be complete Q3 of next year. Proc Wetlands project, phase 3, which will extend the boardwalk even further into the wetland area. The request for qualifications for contracting companies was due back in September, and 3 proposals were received from Hutton Construction, Donlinger, and Conco. So expecting to bid that project by the end of the year and start construction Q1 of next year. Kellogg and Ridge interchange, which is going to include some interchange improvements for safety, as well as some other transit facilities and bike ped connections. The city submitted a grant application earlier this year and was not selected, but the city held a debrief meeting back in September and found out that 5 of the 8 criteria that this project ranked really high in and needed 6 to move on to be selected. So, or at least move on to the next step. So we are going to consider resubmitting for the next round when those are due. So 135th Street from Central to 13th Street. That project is currently under design, and really the first step of that, even though the roadway project is slated for construction in 2025, we're gonna look to start construction in 2024 for the signal at Central and 135th Street. That signal's already been, a lot of the rough work has been done in terms of underground conduit and such, so it would just be a matter of signal poles and foundation work to make that signal, hopefully have it activated next year, so. Hoover from 21st to 29th, just up the road here, currently undergoing right-of-way acquisition and looking to start construction in 2024. And then the last project update on Country Acres Dog Park. City closed on the land for the park expansion, and Baughman's currently working on design concept and should be back here next month for presentation to District Advisory Board of that concept. So with that, that's all the updates I have for engineering. Happy to answer any questions. Board first, maybe.
Do we have any questions from the board? That's good information. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm not sure this falls under your purview, but the pothole machine that I remember, that was such a big deal when that was announced. We bought this machine, but I've never heard any more about it. Is it in use? Is it working like it should? Or
I think you're talking about the concrete patch machine.
Yeah,
You don't see that a lot out here in District 5 because we have majority of asphalt roads.
okay.
It's used primarily down south.
So
Yes.
is that working like the city had expected it to work?
As far as I know, it's still working. They're still using it. And the big benefit of that is a single person operator. So it certainly helps when there's staffing issues and other challenges there from a staff standpoint.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, can I get a motion to receive and file the staff report this evening? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any Grace? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. No. Okay, so under new business, Gary Ferris is going to present on the tree canopy policy.
I think Steve's gonna help me with that too. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. My name is Gary Ferris. I'm the city arborist. I'm working on the tree policy with a committee that was put together. So there's been a lot more than just me working on this. Do we have that slideshow? Do you want the clicker? Oh, I'd love the clicker. We will get right on through this if I've got the clicker. Thank you. So many of the principles that are addressed in the tree policy draft are already being put into place. They've been put into place over a long period of time, but this actually puts in writing a document that unifies all the city departments that have to do with trees, public works, parks, other departments that do projects that have tree components to them. And so what this basically does is give us an acknowledgement of the value and the really what the infrastructure that is the tree canopy, and lets us go through the preservation and expansion of the urban canopy through purpose-driven decision-making. Policy specifically is built to address public projects and is intended to convey, again, that appropriate level of value to the infrastructure. The policy recognizes and is integrated with information that has come from the NASA Develop study that had identified multiple heat islands within the city. Environmental justice and climate change do take center stage in that study. Many of you have probably seen that. And with that information, we can effectively target areas of the city that lack canopy and are disproportionately affected through elevated temperatures. The policy provides guidance for forestry and CIP projects, as I mentioned, where tree removal and placement activities occur, and it dictates a greater public engagement effort and that improves communications, but from our end with the community and various stakeholders. The NASA study utilized multiple data points, including but not limited to surface and air temperatures, tree canopy cover, and demographic data to identify 17 they're called census tracts that are depicted in this map. They're the darker colored sections. They're numbered, but they're not numbered 1 through 17. That's really confusing, but I just used the map from the NASA developed study to give you an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about these vulnerable tracts. So the implementation plan for forestry initiatives that is attached to the policy places a priority in planting trees in the street right of way within these areas. The contracted tree planting that we have going on this, starting now, and they'll be planting through, I believe, April or May. And then the contractor will be caring for the trees for the next 2 years after that. That initiative, as well as others, are going to be promoted more through social media, other engagement pathways as a part of implementing this policy plan. But this contracted tree planting that we have going on is actually in one of these census tracts, or one of the census tracts that was shown in the last slide. Efforts to improve the tree canopy cover throughout the city, especially within the heat islands, are a long-term investment. The EPA identifies that increasing the tree canopy is the single most effective way to combat the urban heat island effect. And implementation of the policy will require development of metrics and to measure this policy. But it may take 30 to 50 years to effectively record the progress that we initiate today. So what we do today is very important to the future. It's a long-term game. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve to discuss the CIP projects as it relates to the policy. And then we'll save for questions.
Thank you, Gary. Steve Dagenhart again with Public Works Engineering. So how does this kind of relate to the capital project? So just like it has been before, city's going to make the effort and every effort to save what trees we can on the project and obviously add new ones where possible. So but every project is different. So each one of these is going to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, depending on obviously what trees are already on the project site and what improvements are coming with the project. So when the city hires the design consultant, that design consultant is going to have a landscape architect on their design team. The city's also going to supplement that team with our landscape architect as well as a forestry expert in order to help work through this process of evaluating the trees that are on site, their size, their species, whether they're desirable to keep on the project, where can we modify the improvements to work around the existing trees and save those, and then obviously work on the final planting plan for the end of the project. So like all projects, they are presented to the district advisory board at concept level. We will bring the project then back at a later date to the district advisory board, kind of present more formally here on the specific landscaping that's going to happen on that project, because that design concept is just really not known yet what the full impact will be to the trees and what the final tree plan will be. So just as a couple examples here, so the 135th Street from Central to 13th that's been here to the District 5 Advisory Board. As you can see, there's the sidewalk on both sides where the existing development is in the north half mile. The proposed sidewalk has been moved closer to the street to help accommodate a lot of the trees that the development has already planted in an attempt to save and leave those with the project. Now, as this project moves along and final street elevations are set, final sidewalk elevations are set, that's when there's going to have to be a little bit more further evaluation to see what the potential impact is with those trees and whether we can accommodate and leave them in place with some minor grading around the trees, whether we have to construct a retaining wall to help try to save those trees and leave them in place, and how many of them may not, if the retaining wall gets too tall or the tree is too close to a retaining wall, potentially, is it really viable for that tree to remain in place and be healthy and survive? So this project will come back at a later date to the district advisory board with the final landscape plan. I think one recent project where I think we had really good success and really a lot of collaboration with the adjacent neighborhood is 13th Street from 119th to 135th. It kind of hard to see here, but for the most part, here again, sidewalk alignment was changed and moved out closer to the street in order to save as many trees, existing trees there as possible. Some of them that were going to be close to the roadway, needless to say, they did have to come out, so we weren't able to save all of them. But if you look through there now, I think there's quite a significant number of trees that were saved as part of that tree evaluation. So as I elaborated before here, every effort's going to be made to protect the trees that are already on site. This will include some additional protection measures to help more visual protection measures, such as say like snow fence around trees that need to be saved, help keep the contractor's equipment away from that root zone of that tree, keep it from over compacting, and give that tree a better chance of surviving even post-construction. So trees that'll be planted after construction's finished, going to follow our landscaping policy, and that has to take into account what existing utilities are going to be there after the completion of the project, both aerial and underground, as well as taking into account site distance issues around driveways and intersections. If there's not enough space along the project to plant trees, then we're going to accommodate and try to plant trees close to the project area. And so that's going to be determined first by looking at space within a quarter mile of the project site. And if there's no suitable areas within a quarter mile of that project site, then planting is going to occur in the nearest vulnerable census tract that Gary referred to. Those were identified in that climate report. So when it's not possible to plant trees falling into those criteria, then tree planting funds and such shall be made available and used at the appropriate time as determined by the city arborist. And so this is just kind of an example of what a landscape plan can look like after construction. With, in particular, this was Greenwich a few years ago between Pawnee and Harry. And it's tough to see, but the darker circles here would be the new trees that were planted with the project. They're again kind of staying away from intersections where possible. You'll see some gaps, particularly in here where trees were not planted back, but that was because a number of these were saved. Sidewalk was moved closer to the roadway. These trees were saved, and therefore then we did not need to fill in this extra area space. Otherwise the trees would have been competing against each other and whatnot, and likely neither tree would have survived. So again, that's taken into account what's going to remain in place at the completion of the project, working around other utilities and pavement and driveway sections or in intersections. So the communications team has created a project on the forum that the public can go to and post their questions and get additional information about the policy and presentation. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and we'll open it up for questions.
Any questions from the board?
I don't want to segue this whole thing though. Does the city arborist have a sustainability clause in the removal of trees currently in the disposal?
What would a sustainability clause look like to you?
So are there like sustainable efforts? What are we doing with the trees when we dispose of them? Would be my question.
Oh. Dead trees?
Mhm.
Yeah, like.
Like all of the above.
Okay, so we utilize a lot of the chips that we create within our own operations.
Perfect.
We give as many of those away as we possibly can. Our last resort for getting rid of the chips that we create is taking them to the landfill, but the landfill uses them as coverage. So they aren't just taking up space, they are actually being used. But that is our last resort. We create a lot of chips. We create more chips than we could give away. We've tried in the past to have locations around town where we have chips available to the public, and that has not worked long term because that becomes the public dumping ground. And then we spend more resources cleaning up than we do making chips available. So that's a real challenge, and I'd love to have that kind of space where people can come get chips. That doesn't happen right now. It's not available. But something we can work toward. But as far as the large logs and things like that, there's a lot of that goes to the landfill. They then grind it up and use it to make coverage.
Thank you.
Here, can you just get a couple of quick numbers on how many trees we lose a year versus how many we plant?
Okay.
What
So-
we've invested this year for more trees?
Sure. So we have been running a significant deficit, which no one wants to hear, but the reality is that we remove somewhere between, depending on the year, 3,000 to 5,000. We've, in a really, really heavy removal year, we've removed up to 6,000 trees in a year. Now, those are dead trees. We're not searching out the greatest, most beautiful live trees that make a neighborhood just to cut it down, just to make everybody mad and ruin the environment. That's not what we do. We take out the dead, dying, dangerous disease trees. And when we do that, yes, we need to plant back, right? Between budget allocations and staff resources, we can plant between 1,100 and 1,500 bald and burlap trees per year. What that means is that we run a huge deficit every year. Now, in 2022, the 2022 budget, there was an allocation made for a tree contract using some unused funds that allowed us to get this contract that I discussed earlier in the presentation that is being applied in one of the census tracts. We're planting I believe it's just over 1,300 trees in about a 3.5 mile square area, roughly. And it's just an area that is low in canopy. And so when we narrowed that area down, we were able to send that out to contract, got a contractor to bid on that. And so we're going to execute that contract. So planting a lot of trees that way. We're also working in-house on some new techniques on developing small trees. So we're not buying the relatively expensive bald and burlap trees. They're large and they're, a lot of instant gratification, but they do require a lot of maintenance and a lot of staff effort to be able to plant. What we're working on is a system that develops a smaller tree that takes less staff input and is cheaper to acquire. That way we can put more trees in the public space with the same or less dollars than we currently have. So this year, we are likely going to be at net zero, which was our first goal. Can we sustain that year over year? I don't know. That is to be seen. But with a 1,500 to 2,000 tree deficit for the past decades, being at a net zero is a pretty darn good accomplishment, I would say. The project that we did at the Alice Wall Park last Thursday, it was a good step in the right direction. We actually got some rain that flooded part of the project area that is only now becoming available to plant. So we only got to do about half that project. We only got about 340 trees planted with the 80 high school students that showed up. They were amazing. They were fantastic. All the props to Southeast. Hour and a half.
My school.
An hour and 15 minutes, 80 high school students planted 340 trees. So that is a testament to their activity. I mean, they just took it and ran with it. It was awesome. It was really, really impressive. I'm hoping to get the other half planted. You're hearing it here first. I'm hoping to get the other half planted on Tuesday. I'm searching for volunteers. We're running out of year. So we're really scrambling to try to get that
Tomorrow or next Tuesday?
next Tuesday, a week. So
You know, we don't have a council meeting that day, so make sure we know about it. We'll get out there.
you're top on my list, sir. I'll give you a shovel. And if you want one, we've got some of those reserved ones with the gold paint. You can have one of those.
Put a tree plant pool.
But they're really small trees, so they're not difficult to plant. It's not a big hole to dig. But yeah, we can use all the help we can get for sure. But I'm hoping to do that next Thursday, starting around 9:30 at Alice Wall Park. So if you want to come out and plant a few trees, come on out. That would be great. So any other questions? And I'm sorry, I'm long-winded.
Got one. All right, looking at your draft here, explain environmental justice.
Environmental justice has to do with the heat island itself and the effects of that, where you have either limited canopy, no canopy, or no way to cool the air. You've got a warmer area versus an adjacent cooler area, okay? Then you take into consideration the demographic data that goes along with that. So what you wind up seeing is that not all, but there are some correlations between lower income, less affluent areas, minority areas, predominantly minority areas that are at higher temperatures. So that becomes an environmental justice issue. So you've got more affluent areas that are cooler, less affluent areas that are hotter. And then those hotter areas are, you know, their utility bills are higher and they can't afford it, right? So if you plant trees, cool the area, cool the structures, then you help reduce that air temperature and equalize that across the span. You're not going to make anybody any money doing that, but you are going to alleviate some of that environmental stress in that area.
Okay, and then you mentioned ESG. Where's this tying back to? And
ESG.
yeah, didn't you mention that at the start?
That should be ESG. That you're talking about the environmental government. I didn't mention that.
All right, thought you said that earlier, but okay.
So do you guys ever plant trees like in new housing developments, like on the properties?
On the private property?
On the I know years ago that used to happen, many moons ago.
That's probably the developer, but if it was a situation that the city did it, that's probably before my time.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that like 1993 is what I'm talking about, yeah.
Generally, it would be the homeowners associations that
Yeah.
are responsible for planting.
I don't know, somebody in that area said that it was this, they showed me this, the city came in and I don't know if there was some extra funding for that particular development. Kind of over by McConnell, Town Park area.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know how true that was, but somebody said that the city came in and planted some trees on some of the first development the first phase of that particular.
We get blamed for a lot of things. Yes.
Are there any city incentives for homeowners to plant trees to help out? Does the city offer us some money to plant a tree?
No program exists that I'm currently aware of. The incentive is, immediate
Hurt
purchase.
yourself, yeah.
The incentive's there anyway, to plant a tree, to cool your home, to cool your area, to, beautify your property, increase your property value. Those are all the incentives that are currently there just because we exist. But as far as any financial,
Help with that?
help, I don't know of any.
But it just kind of goes along with the incentives for like the water, like if you put a,
Conserve water.
yeah, like the toilets and the different things that conserves water.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could go along with maybe,
It's possible. Right now, we'd have to identify that funding source and
Yeah.
where we come from, and then we'd have to create the inventory of trees.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. So, right now, there isn't anything.
be kind of fun, something fun to explore, for future.
So my name is Russell Fox. I serve on the Sustainability Integration Board, and I'm also on the nonprofit organization ICT Trees. And we've been really interested to see this develop, and we're, really excited that the city is making some commitments in this way. A question about the tree canopy policy for CIP projects. So obviously the trees that you guys take out are, as you said, overwhelmingly the dead, the dying, the dangerous trees. But there are circumstances where trees, healthy trees, even have been removed as part of CIP projects. So by establishing this criteria for significance, I think that that's a really important step forward. One question about, and this is on point 16 on page 7. So when a CIP project is known that it's going to involve significant tree modifications, the project team will present a general idea of the tree related modifications at a district advisory board meeting. When possible, this communication will take place during the initial concept presentation. What do you all imagine that communication consisting of? And specifically, is it going to be something that would be put to the DAB, that the DAB would then vote on, and the DAB would have the power in response to this concern about the significant tree modifications that might be involved that are identified in accordance with this criteria, say no to the project because they don't want to lose the trees? Or is this communication just, we want to tell you that this is going to happen?
Sure, so this is what this policy has been really trying to build more on, is that public engagement and the public notification about what's proposed to happen with the project. So well, like I kind of showed there with 135th Street from Central to 13th, we've got an initial concept that kind of showed moving sidewalks in because, hey, we know trees are close enough to the right of way that if we tried to put sidewalk at the right of way, which is pretty standard and common and what we would like to do, we know that it's going to wipe out every tree. So presenting that initially up front, it kind of helps identify, hey, we're making an effort to try to save those.
Right.
But then we would come back. I don't know that we'll kind of have to step through this. I don't know if we have a definite percentage, of plan completion figured out yet, but the idea would be obviously to return later and present, hey, here are trees that are going to come out. Notification would likely go to the adjacent HOAs or adjacent property owner. That would be one of the biggest keys to make sure that that property owner knows, hey, this particular tree we're looking to remove with that project. Then in terms of presenting like final landscaping and getting comments from the district advisory board, I mean, at this point, I would say that would be certainly taking comments, so taking certain other perspectives. Hey, advice, hey, could you do something else? Could you, look into more trees? I want to say, are we gonna have it identified? I think maybe we would like to possibly have it identified that we would know how many trees are gonna go back into that project and what we can't fit in that project. Have we identified where it could go within a quarter mile? Or would it go into one of those, I gotta use the right words here, census tracts? Maybe at the time we present it, we would know some of that information as well too. But I know we'll have to kind of step our way through this and kind of see what's the best timing of that presentation, how much detail we have in it, but that's standing here right now, that's kind of what I'm envisioning potentially.
And I appreciate that, and obviously all of this information will be valuable, and I've seen, you know, the way the city operates well enough to know that you guys are really interested in thoughtful feedback and you will take suggestions. I just want to know that in the same way that the DAB can in fact vote up or down on development projects, if the way that we are conceiving how these projects, these CIP projects would roll forward when there is concerns about tree modifications, that the DAB would have a similar, you know, capability or not. I don't know. I wanted to know what you imagined, whether this was going to be the sort of thing that, you know, DABs would take a vote on or not.
So Dr. Fox, the DAB technically, I mean, there's really no binding power. It's just a recommendation, even for.
Right.
For everything.
You can in fact say, you can in fact recommend not to do something. I'm not saying that the saying no would stop it.
Correct.
I'm just asking, is it gonna be that sort of thing where the DAB could in fact say, we'd actually rather not, in the way that they can about development projects?
Sure. Valid question. I know that Steve mentioned a project that we did, a lot of extensive work and communication with the neighbor HOA. That was Hickory Creek on 13th between 135th and 119th on the south side of 13th. There were several trees that the HOA was concerned about. Went through and met with them a couple of different times, walked the land, identified trees, and got to a comfort level with the neighboring HOA that they didn't feel that they needed to address the DAB anymore. If there's a situation where that isn't going smoothly, then I would hope that the DAB opportunity would be that feedback to the council member to say, you know what, we need to pause here and make sure we're doing proper communication. We're doing everything we can to identify what trees we're keeping or how or where we're replacing them with. And that give and take is really what needs to happen rather than stop the project.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's really where I'd see that opportunity, that engagement happening. I can reference in Councilmember Ballard's district, a very large tree along Stackman Drive by the Art Museum that was identified that had to come out due to water treatment plant pipeline. And the tree couldn't be saved either. It was one that was diseased but it come to her DAB, a lot of concern about why you're removing this decades old tree. And we were able to do some things to mitigate it, to try to, and again, communicate and just not tear down trees. So I don't think it's designed to stop, but again, making sure that we're doing as much as possible to over communicate. Because too many times we've just taken trees out and then deal with it later. And that's not what this policy is designed to do. So, but it's a good question and it needs to be part of the policy, that there is that next step of communication, that it goes beyond just the neighboring property, but also the DAB, because you know, there may be other issues or other concerns. So,
and this does differentiate between the work that the forestry department does on a daily basis and projects. Okay, so where there are dead trees in the streets or parks or whatever, trees that need to be pruned, that's just part of their normal work.
Sure.
That doesn't come to the DAB,
right?
Because that's just normal operations.
Yeah, I was specifically talking about these kinds of projects.
I just wanted to make that abundantly clear.
I mean, the number of trees that we had to remove for this facility was dozens, right? Just because it was a barren volunteer trees were coming up all over the place. They weren't great trees, but they were canopied. They did provide, help to the environment, but this was all predates this policy.
Yes, yeah. Well, this policy hasn't been adopted yet.
Right, right. So there's gonna be trees, but not on this facility, not as many as we're taking out, but it would have been different had this policy been in place.
You repurpose it all,
Purpose what?
the trees that you're taking out?
Oh, you mean replant them somewhere?
We have done that. That's a very special case and under very special circumstances, because more often than not, what would happen is the tree that we would be moving wouldn't survive the move. So if it's something that is like a high value species or a unique species and it's not large enough or it's small enough, I'll say it that way. It's small enough that we could move, that would be a consideration for sure.
That's why having the forestry expert and the city's landscape architect as part of that supplement, that design team would help identify those situations and possibilities.
But yes, that has been done.
Good questions, thank you.
You were talking about the large burlap trees that are hard to plant. Is there a minimum size as well? In other words, does it have to have at least a 1-inch trunk to be a replaced tree or?
Well, as a part of these CIP projects, as a part of the CIP project, those are gonna be kind of industry standard 2-inch diameter, maybe 3, depending on what the species is. More established trees. One of the things that we run into with planting the smaller trees, and this is one of the things that we're trying to trial and plant these smaller trees that we are developing all over town and lots of different places, is they're easier to vandalize. It's more of an attractive nuisance. And in fact, along the McLean corridor, we planted several dozen of these smaller trees, and about 3 days later, about 80% of the tops of them were snapped. Just for kicks and giggles, I guess. But that's less likely to happen with the larger trees. And so when you have the investment that these projects are putting into it, you want to put something in there in place. So yeah, and the contractors are doing that work, not the forestry staff.
But does the city grow most of the trees or do they purchase?
We don't grow out very many trees. When we have the appropriate number of staff, we'll grow some cottonwoods in-house. It only takes one season to turn those around. The rest of it we purchase in. And with the bare root stuff that we're doing, we purchase those trees in as well, but we only hold them for one summer. So we get them in April, we plant them in October, November.
Good question, good feedback. This comes to council, do we have a date
I
yet?
don't think there's a date yet. There's a date.
No. We've had a couple of workshops and there'll be another one after all the dabs, but probably not, but just come straight to council.
I think there's some other community engagement scenarios that we're doing, and then I think that'll probably go through the council process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on, we'll have Brad Etherly with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department.
Good evening. Again, my name is Brad Etherly. I'm a senior planner with Current Plan. No problem. I can't pronounce it half the time. Today, we're gonna meet over an application for a minor amendment to CUP DP 184 to permit a vehicle and equipment sales use on the property. Go to the map. I'm sure you're trying to get there. That's fine. I can. Give you an idea where it is. It's kind of on the southwest corner of Maze and 21st. There. It's a storage unit, and it's a 3.67 acre lot that's located at 10625 West 21st Street North. It is zoned general commercial district, and it is currently used as a self-storage facility. The applicant would like to amend use. There, the CUP does not allow for vehicle sales. It would be permitted in the general commercial district zoning, but because of the CUP not allowing it, they have to amend that CUP in order to allow it. We do request that the subject to the supplementary use regulation section, which is D3(6)HH of the Unified Zoning Code, that the use regulation should be for the limited commercial district, which just has a few more restrictive settings, including limiting signage and not allowing the use of an elevated platform for the display of vehicles. What they're trying to do, actually, just so you know, they're not trying to become a car lot. What they're trying to do is rent moving vans and trailers, and things like that. So they're trying to use that space in order to rent those things out. The vehicle and equipment sales shall only be an accessory use to the warehouse self-storage use. The applicant will have to adhere to the required parking set forth by the UZC, which is 1 stall per 500 square foot of building floor area, plus 2 spaces for the first 10,000 square feet of lot area used for sales or storage purposes, plus 1 space per 10,000 square feet after that. The Pearson Farms Commercial CUP DP 184 was approved on April 26, 1988, with several amendments throughout the years regarding permitted uses, landscaping, and architectural controls. The requested vehicle sales use is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan, which identifies the subject property as appropriate for new employment. Based upon the information available at the time, the staff report was prepared. It's recommended that the request be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and the recommendation is based on the golden rules. Staff has received no public comments on this application, and it will be reviewed at the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission on November 9th, which is this Thursday. Teresa, if you could go to that, just scroll down. Here's a picture of the zoning, so it's kind of squarely in the general commercial, but also part of this CUP is limited commercial. So we just feel like that supplementary use regulation would be better fit for the limited commercial instead of the general commercial. Again, that just kind of puts restrictions on signage and keeps them from putting display vehicles on ramps like you might see at a car lot or something like that. You can scroll down. This is the future growth concept map, and this brown section is basically new employment. It does kind of get into a little bit of industrial warehouse self-storage might be considered that, but everything kind of works together with the community investments plan. You scroll down. So this is the used store looking from West 21st south onto the site. They basically go from the edge of that building over to the green space there next to the collision center. This is looking west down 21st Street. Scroll down. This is of course looking north into the Walmart area. It's got the Fuzzy's Tacos and Andy's and car wash and a bank. And then this is looking east. There's a little strip mall there, and I don't know if that's it. It's just another look down 21st Avenue going west. So having all that, I don't know if the applicant or the agent is here tonight. Okay. Yeah. I can stand for any questions. I'm sure you can take any questions as well.
Do you have any questions from the DAB for Brad? Okay. Applicant, would you like to share anything you would like to add?
I'll just tell you what it's about. He said a bunch of technical stuff, the record, please.
Could you come?
You wanna come?
Yeah, just give us your name and address for the record. Troy Hagerman. My address is Newton, but our management office is North Rock Road. I don't know which one you want.
We'll go 3450 North Rock Road.
Thank you.
I manage the 7 storage locations in Wichita, the U store, branded ones anyway. And we're just trying to rent Penske trucks is what we're trying to be able to do. We called down to the city, said we want to do it. They said, fine, but you're not zoned for it. So we looked at filling out the application and doing the stuff. So we have of the 7 properties, we got 3 of them that rent Penske trucks. And it's just a great side that goes along with storage. And so it's kind of convenience. And we have one up at 37th and Mays, if you can picture that one across from Menards. And so that one, for some reason, doesn't do a lot of business. We've been there for 10+ years and a lot of development in that area since then. But either everybody hires movers or they all have pickup trucks. I'm not sure which one. So my manager at 21st and Mays used to do it at our West Central location. And he said, why don't we do this? I enjoyed doing it. And I said, well, let's see what we can do. So we fill out the application, but the whole gist for the zoning changes, just so we can rent Penske trucks. I don't want to look like a car lot. Not that they look bad. Yeah.
Hold on. Any questions?
Any questions from the DAB?
Okay, are you talking like 10 trucks out there? I mean, you don't have much room there.
No, we
And
don't.
so,
I
how do you
plan,
have all these things?
I've, before we came to the city, I talked with Penske. They have a corporate office on Hoover down by the airport. And I said, hey, we'd like to look at doing this. But we don't have a lot of room. But the store to the north does about probably 2 rentals a week. Now I hope to do more than that because this is a lot of effort to go through, but I don't expect it to be a lot, but I talk with them and say, hey, look, we don't have a lot of room. Will you work with me on offloading trucks or transferring trucks in and out? So we only have a couple there at a time. And when I say a couple, I'm talking 2. And there might be, say on a weekend, somebody might drop off a truck. I might have a couple, but Penske's been real good with us on picking up equipment. So a lot of times they'll bring in equipment like the day before we need it, when we have a confirmed reservation. So I'm not gonna look like the U-Haul dealer on West Kellogg that's got 15 trucks out in front. I just don't have that kind of location, that kind of room. And I really don't want to look like that. I like kind of blending into the neighborhood, which if you know any of our other stores, typically we have a kind of a small footprint along the curb. And we put the storage building back behind, so. That's our,
To get into my green acres.
you bet. I don't want to block you out of Green Acres. I won't block you any more than their big semi truck that comes in every day and backs into there. But other questions or anything? I mean, I've done this quite a while, so I probably answer most things.
All right, so it looks like it's recommended that the DAB approves it with the conditions stated.
I move that we approve based on staff recommendation.
Second. Then moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, looks like we have Tyler Shufflebind, Wichita.gov for the redesign presentation here.
Tyler is not here,
He's trying to.
so I'm going to play the video.
He's gonna, there's a video. So before you start that, Teresa, so the city has been working on redesigning Wichita.gov for some time now. Tyler's the lead on the project. Our current sign is woefully outdated and it isn't as transparent and as user-friendly as it needs to be. So we had an RFP issue, staff screening, selected a company called Civic Plus out of Manhattan, Kansas. Got the bid. And we've been working on this new site. So this is to get some feedback on what it looks like. And if this is not ready for rolling out, there's obviously still a lot of tweaking. That's what we're asking for support on, or concerns, criticisms, but we know it could be a lot better, and that's why we've undergone this project, so.
Thank you for letting me present. Any questions?
You did a good job on the video stuff. Thanks for showing up, Molly. Any questions from the dad? Okay, any questions from the audience?
How soon is it live?
December 7th. So that's what we're aiming for right now. But like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it on here or not, but search function, we have a few issues we're trying to work out. And that's number one thing that everybody said we want to fix is search function. So we're not going live until we know that's working and the way people want it.
Is there a dedicated location for all legal notices?
We can put that on there.
I would love to have it 24/7 available free.
All the ordinances?
Anything that is required as a legal notice.
Yeah, we have those on the website currently, but we do have on the city clerk's page, all like the ordinances upcoming and.
Because we pay $100,000 a year to a newspaper for that. That's they charge people to be able to access, and it should be free on our website 24/7.
That's there.
Thank you.
Well, if we don't have anything else, then. Time to, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. Oops, moved and second and adjourned.
So our next meeting.
Monday, December 4th, 6:30, and we'll be back at the fire station on 21st Street.
We are tentatively gonna have a dab breakfast here on Saturday, December 9th. The goal would be, our guest will be the new council member elect. If they're able to meet that date and time. That's what we're kind of waiting until tomorrow to make sure that that winner is available. So if they're not, then we'll adjust it to maybe a different Saturday. But that would be the idea. Kind of like what we did last January with newly elected Commissioner Beatty. If there's any other department head that you'd like to meet or you haven't visited with, I know our airport director, Jesse Roma, was just at District 2's breakfast on Saturday. And there's a lot of activity, a lot of interesting things happening out at the airport. And so I might see if he's available. Because he's doing an outstanding job for us. And so we might have a twofer at that breakfast. So, but we'll be back here. So, and then, is Bill still here? Anybody that did not get the tour of the building, stick around and Bill will give it for you who stayed for the length of the meeting. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.